On today's show, concerns with the Capitals' power play and what is the key ingredient in the Capitals' secret sauce.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, I want to thank you for making this your first listen of the day. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about when will the Capitals see Ryan Leonard? If there's one question I get above and beyond any other question on social media is when will the Capitals see Ryan Leonard? So when will we see Ryan? I'll talk about that a bit later. I'll talk about the key ingredient in this year's Capitals secret sauce. Is it mango? Nah, but just to get it going here, we're going to talk about power play concerns that surround this year's Capitals team. And not as a whole, but as of late here, the Capitals have really struggled on the PP. And, to be honest here with you, I got to kind of dig deep when I talk about flaws with this year's team. As you know, they were the first team to clinch a playoff spot, that a lot of players on this team are putting up career numbers that you really kind of have to dig deep to find any problems with this team. But one thing that really kind of jumps out at me above and beyond anything else is the power play concerns right now with this team. And if you are an everydayer of the show, I've spoke out about it ad nauseum this season about how special teams, the later you get in the season, how those deficiencies or where you excel really comes into focus. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, what difference does it make? Well, in the preseason games, I talked about the Capitals' deficiencies with special teams, but the later that you get into the season, those games have greater magnitude. Let's talk about teams that aren't even the Capitals. Maybe you're a bubble team that's just trying to claw your way into a playoff spot in some form or fashion. That if you could, secure a power play goal or two or kill off a penalty, well, those things could be really huge for a team that's just trying to fight your way even into a playoff spot, period. But to bring it to the Capitals here, we know they have it all buttoned up for this season. They will make it to the playoffs. But when it's really going to get drawn into focus is when the Capitals play in the playoffs for their first game and the games that follow. That if you are given a golden opportunity served up on a platter, that you have the man advantage and you don't make good on those opportunities, that could definitely determine the outcome of the game. Of course, if you lose by a goal or two and you had several power play opportunities, let's say. So the Capitals really need to address this now as they hope to get off the power play schneid, if you will, against the Minnesota Wild tonight. And if there is a team to do it against, well, it's the Minnesota Wild. So let's dive into that here. So one of the big concerns is the team's power play performance, or, well, the lack thereof. And that's one of the things that Spencer Carbery talked about as much as he pointed out that with the playoff games often hinging on just a couple of power play chances, every single play is crucial. And, the Capitals, they don't really have a lot to complain about. There hasn't been any lengthy losing streaks, anything like that, even Spencer Carbery has said that he's careful not to be too critical of this team, considering all they've accomplished. But you can't live on former glory. You can't live on standings points. The things that pop out is the power play, and addressing those sooner than later is going to be advantageous. He said, quote, "You might get one or two, and every puck touch on that power play is going to be important," unquote. So if you take a look at it, squandered opportunities here and there, that can be a big difference. Now, needs for improvement, what I'm talking about here, our last successful conversion came on March 5th against the Rangers when Ovi netted number 885. So it has been some time. It's one of those things to say, well, just fix it. Just go out there and score that power play goal. Well, of course, it's not that easy as you are playing against some elite NHL talent in some cases, but they have had success this season overall, painting it with a broad brush on the power play. How do they dig deep and play some of those deep cuts that saw them get so much fame? So, if you take a look at it here, when we really need to shake off this power play slump, especially with the postseason on the horizon. Because like I say, remember in the playoffs, the referees tend to hold back on calls, which makes making the most of those power play opportunities even more critical. And, you do see that when you watched postseason hockey in particular, as it's a little bit more, I guess you could say, freewheeling. They don't like to have the whistle out and call every single play because it kind of hampers or stymies the excitement and just the continuity of the play in those playoff games. But in a historical context, Carbery highlighted the need to clean up some sloppiness on the PP, emphasizing that turnovers can kill those precious opportunities. Now, this is especially worrying when we recall our playoff experience last year against the Rangers. As you recall, the Capitals got swept. And, the very fact that they had to back into victory to make it to a playoff spot in general is quite something. But they squandered opportunities where we only scored 2 power play goals on 17 attempts, a big reason we got swept in that series. And of course, that's just one reason. It was an inadequate roster, I guess I'm going to say. There was some disinterest, it appeared, from some players, Ovi in particular, that we definitely don't want to have happen in the postseason this season like it was last season. And, I think it's really easy to jump to certain conclusions that the Capitals, taking a look at the points and the standings and potentially, President's Trophy, they're neck and neck with Winnipeg there, that it's going to be a slam dunk and you're just going to get pushed straight into the Stanley Cup final. Not the case. As the teams they are going to play are going to be very, very well. So you take a look at that. Looking at the broader picture, the Caps have managed 42 power play goals out of 193 attempts this season, which gives the Caps a 21.8% success rate. So definitely some room for improvement with a team that doesn't have a lot of weakness. And all things considered, not stellar, but it is an improvement from last year. And, last year, we like to look at last year's just a total abomination, but they still did make it to the playoffs, which is much better than a lot of other teams. Now, with 11 more regular season games before the playoffs kick off on April 19th, the Capitals really need to find the rhythm. And what better way to do it than tonight against the Wild? I will be at that game. I will be excited to see what they're able to accomplish. I'm really hoping that Ovi can score a goal. That would be quite something. But it's going to be a crucial game against the Wild, who currently boasts the second worst penalty kill in the league at 71.4%. So if there is ever an opportunity, like I say, for the Capitals to get off the schneid as far as the power play and improving those numbers, it's tonight in St. Paul. Let's hope they can get it done. Now, this could be, like I say, the opportunity to get it done. That's what we're hoping for. You hope the Capitals win games, but at this point, it's not even about wins and losses. Again, we know that the Capitals are going to make it to the playoffs. For me, the remainder of these games here are about a couple things. It's about Ovi above and beyond, I guess, anything else at this point, since the Capitals have it buttoned up, that he can catch and pass Gretzky this season. And other than that, it has almost kind of taken on a preseason feel to me, where it's about assessment now. What's working, what's not, line combinations, deep pairings, seeing if you can get Alexeyev or Dylan McElrath or, Frank, something like that out there to get some work in, to just kind of put the team and get it dialed in. A tune-up, if you will. When you have a car and it gets up there, you get a tune-up and it's running a lot better. The Capitals engine is running rather well, but there still is some things that need to get tightened up. So that is why I think they need to address it sooner than later. All right, so coming up here after the break, I'll talk about the key ingredient, or one of the key ingredients in the Capitals secret sauce. What is that? I'll discuss straight ahead. If you're like me, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee, but I got tired of settling for the grocery store brands that just weren't cutting it. That's why I turned to Trade, and let me tell you, this coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the U.S., bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees, curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know exactly what you like, they'll handpick the perfect match for you. I took their quick quiz, and under a minute, they matched me with a roast that was fresh, smelled incredible, and well, even tasted better. My first bag was a game changer. It had such a smooth, rich flavor, and I could actually taste the difference from my usual coffee. So right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/lockedonnhl for 40% off your first order. Drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Cap. So in this next segment here, we're talking about the secret sauce of this year's Capitals team. And it's a question that's been asked quite often, whether it's to Spencer Carbery or Chris Patrick. I've got the question. The players have got the question, is what is one of the biggest differences, some say the biggest difference, than last year's Capitals team? And what is that answer? It is the Capitals defense chipping in on the offense like we have not seen in a long time. And it's a known thing, of course, that it's the centers, it's the wings, it's the forwards in general that kick in primarily on the goal scoring. But when you have a truly great team like the Capitals have this season, well, the blue line plays a huge role as well. I'm talking Chychrun, I'm talking Carlson, these kind of guys that have been a game changer for this year's Capitals team. So let's talk about the incredible season the Capitals are having as they do. They sit atop of the mountain in the Eastern Conference. And the biggest thing, like I said, is defensive excellence. One of the standout aspects of this team's success has been performance of our defensemen. They've truly been the backbone of the squad this year, excelling on both ends of the ice. When you hear two-way players, they can score and they can be good defenders. That is what the Capitals have this year. And the good thing is, one of the key outliers, I guess you could say, was Jacob Chychrun getting that huge new deal that things are looking pretty rosy, shall we say, for the Capitals blue line for years to come. Now, another player that I've talked about that I thought potentially last season could be on the trade block is Trevor Van Riemsdyk. But hold the phone here. He has been playing absolutely huge for the Capitals as of late. His recent assist has officially made him the 6th defenseman on the Caps to hit the incredible 20-point milestone this season. So you might be thinking to yourself, what is so much different this year? Why did the Capitals blue line figure it out this season? I think it is the thing that we've heard a lot about. It's the vibes in the locker room. I think it is being paired with the right defender, and just the overall success of this team also breeds other players to dig deep, to draw into their truly greatest self. And I think with Trevor Van Riemsdyk, a good defender, but I think that we have seen him play that much better just based on the overall play of the Capitals and just being paired with another great defender. With 1 goal and 19 assists over 71 games, he's helped set a historic record for the Caps this season. And it has been a historic achievement. Can you believe this? For the first time in Capitals history, this is something, this isn't just like a temporary stat. We have 6 defensemen each reaching the 20-point mark. So huge. And the biggest additions, of course, in the offseason on the blue line were Chychrun and Roy. And also Sandin just really taking his game to the next level. He was a bit of a mismatch, I guess, with Toronto. I think that the Capitals at first struggled how to utilize him within the organization. But this season in particular, we have seen the Capitals blue line take it to the next level. And so that's the big thing. We're only the fourth team since 2000 to do this. So career numbers, historic moment for the Capitals. The New York Islanders were the last team to achieve that feat, going all the way back to the 22-23 season. And, it's the standout players. John Carlson, good old number 74, the minute monster, routinely playing 25 to 30 minutes a night and just putting the icing on top by adding truly an elite talent in Jacob Chychrun. That's huge. But let's talk about John Carlson here. He's racked up 5 goals and a whopping 41 assists for a total of 46 points in those 71 games. And in that mix, Jacob Chychrun, like I talked about, he is putting up career numbers, stellar offense season with 18 goals and 26 assists for 44 points. So to the people that ask, well, what's the big difference? Is it Ovechkin? Is it Pierre-Luc Dubois? Yes, all of those things are part of the key ingredients in this year's Capitals secret sauce. But the blue line is putting up historic numbers. So let's dive even a bit deeper here. We can't forget the other players chipping in. Matt Roy chipping in with 23 points and Martin Feravari rounding out the group with 22 points as well. So all those contributions are really making a difference for this year's Capitals team, and we hope they can continue to keep building on that success. You take a look at the teams that do it well. They have great scoring up and down the lineup. That is one of the things that the Capitals have. But offensive support as well, while we can't overlook Ovi and his chase for the historic goal-scoring record, it's also about the players that have really taken their games to the next level as well. I think I need to give the flowers out. It's not just the blue line. We're talking Alexei Protas, Connor McMichael putting up career numbers, and the perceived reclamation project that has been PLD has been huge for the Capitals. So just a huge thing for the Capitals, like I say, putting up career numbers and the blue line in general on a historic pace. That is what we're going to need to see going forward. And, the thing of it is the blue line has been healthy. That's been one of the things in previous seasons. We've seen Carlson miss a substantial amount of time or this or that player, that the blue line for the Capitals this year has been rock solid. There was a bit of concern out there in a game or so ago that Chychrun was injured. With that, he had that laceration or that cut to his wrist hand area there. So it's a good thing that we've had a team that has been healthy, and that's what's made it especially hard for Alexiev and Dylan McElrath. Is I think that those guys sitting up in the press box there with their fancy clothes, kind of maybe in the back of their mind, I don't want to say hoping for injury, but maybe somehow, some way presenting an opportunity that they can get some more play time. But as it turns out, the Capitals, the blue line in particular, has been rock solid. It's been healthy. And that is why that has been the key ingredient to this year's Capitals secret sauce. All right. So coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Ryan Leonard. When will we see Ryan Leonard? He is there's so much anticipation around his arrival with the team. I'll discuss the latest next. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast, easy? Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored job posts put your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. So if you own your own business or you are involved in the hiring and the firing, I get involved in a lot of that, and it's frustrating. You get someone, you get them onboarded, and then all of a sudden they don't want to work, and people are turning in paper applications. Take all the confusion out of that with Indeed, and now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on the Locked On Capitals podcast. Terms and conditions apply. hiring indeed is all you need. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. The best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. So in the final segment here, we're talking Ryan Leonard. When will we see Ryan Leonard? There was the talk last season that he was going to join the team in the playoffs. That was the hope. But at the end of the day, Ryan Leonard's a young guy. He's not like us longtime fans. It's like, yeah, I need to help this team tomorrow. He knew that he wanted to work on his game. He wanted to help Boston College win a national championship. He wanted to play on the international stage, and he has seen his game grow by leaps and bounds, if you can believe it. A guy that has a bit of a physical flair, a good goal scorer, good hockey IQ, a big frame, a Tom Wilson-esque type player. Some people say, even much better than Tom Wilson, if you can believe that. Could be an absolute game changer for the Capitals. Now, I think it's important to kind of limit your expectations. I think that there is the potential that he could be huge. He will be huge. But the numbers that he's putting up are at the NCAA level and on the international stage. And sometimes that translates flawlessly. Sometimes there's a bit of a lag. See Macklin Celebrini, see Connor Bedard, these kind of guys. They're still really great players, but they have not fully hit their stride yet. And I think with Leonard, just if I'm going to look into my crystal ball here a little bit, I think he's going to be a good contributor. But I don't know if he's necessarily going to get fired out of a rocket right away. He might, and I would absolutely love that. So let's dive into the latest with Ryan Leonard. At 20 years old, wrapped up a stellar regular season with Boston College, snagging the Hockey East Player of the Year title with an impressive 47 points. What is that? 29 goals and 18 assists in just 35 games. And guess what now? Well, they are headed to the playoffs, the NCAA tournaments, and we'll really see what he has on the big stage at the NCAA level. But talking about it, here's the kicker. The Capitals management sees him as not just a part of the future, but potentially as a key player right now, this season, in the postseason. When am I talking about? Well, the answer to everyone asks that writes is, well, when Boston College's season or playoff season ends. So if they win it all, if they get eliminated, I would expect, and I'll talk about here in a bit, that Chris Patrick will reach out to his agent and see when he's ready to join the team. But that is what I'm going to talk about. And there was a recent interview here on 106.7 The Fans Grant and Danny Show. GM Chris Patrick expressed hope that Leonard could be signed to an NHL deal ahead of this year's playoff series, depending on how the NCAA tournament plays out. So, of course, I will have you guys covered on Locked On Capitals, but if you want to know in real time, just keep tabs on those NCAA playoff games. A lot of excitement, some Capitals prospects in there. I know that this is a really busy time as far as hockey is concerned, but if you just live and love hockey like all of us do, then tune into these NCAA playoff games. Like I say, Capitals prospects, very excited. And Patrick later said, quote, he's a pretty important part of the season right now, unquote, highlighting that Leonard is focused on taking Boston College all the way to the national championship. And, I think we got to be, worry about what's best for Leonard here. What's important for that guy at his age is doing the biggest thing at his level, and that is seeing Boston College win it all. We're rooting for him at the end of the day. The Capitals will be waiting when the time is right. Now, the Eagles are the number one overall seed and kick off the tournament on Thursday, facing Bentley University on Saturday. If they make an early exit, it could open the door for Leonard to join the Capitals sooner than later. And I know it's going to be real soon. You might want to go out and, think about what kind of Capitals Ryan Leonard jersey you want. You want the home one, you want the rock the red, the white away jersey. It's getting to be that time if you're a real big Capitals fan. Now, Leonard's readiness for the NHL. Patrick believes it's hard to gauge until you see him in action, like I spoke about, but Leonard has already faced high-level competition, so there is the makings that he could hit the ground running and just really change the team right away. a lot like Alex Ovechkin did so many years ago, including playing for Team USA at the U20 World Championship and against seasoned players in the World Championship last spring. That experience is what could give him a huge advantage over a lesser qualified player, shall we say. But the leadership, the support, Tom Wilson, the future captain, reaching out to one of the future faces of the franchise. Tom Wilson is the leadership circle and likely future captain. Reach out to Leonard after his gold medal win with Team USA at the 2025 World Juniors. Wilson mentions that Leonard has the grit and determination to push through and lead on the ice. That's quite a vote of confidence from Tom Wilson, one of the premier players on this year's Capitals team as well. Again, at 30 years old, putting up plus 30 goals, and a guy that knows a thing or two about being physical. He added, quote, "I'm excited for when he puts the Caps jersey on. It'll be fun to play with a guy like that," unquote. Again, it's a bit like a kid waiting for Christmas, and you ask your parents every day, is it Christmas today, Dad? Is it Christmas tomorrow? I think that, when the Capitals and we see Ryan Leonard join this team, just think about the excitement and just what we will see on the ice when you see Wilson and you see Ryan Leonard and, potentially Crystal and this next wave of Capitals players, that if you can believe it, brace yourself here, that how well the Capitals are playing this year, they could even be exponentially better next year and even a broader picture in years to come. So it's going to be something here. And Patrick compared Leonard's potential debut to Wilson's experience, emphasizing the youthful energy can really shake things up in the playoffs. With the trade deadline behind us, Leonard can now seamlessly be added to the roster without the need to send anyone down to Hershey. That's the good thing. So there's a lot of excitement, a high-level contract, and you got to think that entry-level deal is going to be somewhat similar to what we've seen like Will Smith has with the Sharks, that it is going to be incentive-based and performance-based, shall we say, to see how they play on the big team. But the time is right, and there is not an official countdown because we don't know how Boston College is going to play. But again, if you want to know in real time, you can get a pretty good horse sense on when he's going to join the team based on, say, some reason. I don't think it is, but say Boston College just nosedives and they get eliminated in a hurry, then you'll know. There is a possibility we're going to have to wait some time here. But the one thing I know is when Leonard joins this team, this already great Capitals team is going to be even that much better. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On NHL as they have you covered NHL-wide 5 days a week. Available wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.